Alrighty, well, we'll go ahead and get started. And if anyone joins us throughout this session, they are welcome to jump in. So thank you for joining us for today's Illinois Apex Accelerator at the Champaign County EDC webinar. Before I hand it over to Kelly, just a few quick things. You will receive a follow-up email later today. It will include a PDF version of the PowerPoint, so any of the links that you see throughout it will be live, and it will also have a link to the recording. This is part 3 of this series, so I will include the link to our YouTube playlist where you can see the recording of previous sessions in this series along with other webinars that we've held here at our center. You are welcome to ask questions throughout the session. We just ask that you submit those via the chat box and we will address them once Kelly is done with her presentation. But you can put those in the chat at any time. I will be monitoring it, so if it's something like a link or something like that that you're interested in, I'm always happy to drop that in there for you too. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kelly and we can get started.
Thank you very much, Jordan, and thank you for all that joined us today. I think capability statements are mission critical in building relationships in government contracting. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So let's get started on making government-friendly capability statements. Again, I'm Keli Krueger-Huhra, and I'm the director of the Illinois Apex Accelerator at the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation. And you see on our screen here our partners that help not only with the Department of Defense, but these other agencies and the Champaign County EDC help us provide our services at no fee to our clients. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we've got a lot to talk about today. Purpose of a capability statement. Let's start there. So marketing a contractor's capabilities and resources to prospective government agencies is really the key to crafting a capability statement. We want to outline initial qualifications of our business to do business in the government ecosystem. We want tailored material to create interest, and that's going to be very important as we develop that we tailor to our audience, and we'll talk more about that. Want to differentiate yourself from the competition. One of the key sections in the capability statement is differentiators. So why would I do business with you versus doing business with your competition? So a very important key way to sell your operations. Providing past performance that is relevant to the audience. And we will spend quite a bit of time talking about how we craft past performance and the different ways that we can talk about capabilities in maybe having direct and indirect current government participation, and indicate how what you sell or what you do in the case of services provides value to your customer that will make them more competitive in what their mission is to accomplish. And I think one of the most important takeaways in our discussion today is that this is a living document. This is not a one and done. This document, again, tailoring being one way, updating with past performance, going in a direction of targeting who you're going to be sending to when at all possible, having not only it be a living document, but having multiple versions of the document. So that'll become a little bit clearer as we go along. And when I talk about identifying targets, where is the capability statement going to go? Wherever possible, understand that if you're a prime contractor, your potential target for this capability statement is the agencies themselves. If you think I'm going to be starting as a subcontractor, I want those opportunities, then you're going to be targeting it to the prime. Prime is the one doing business with the government, so you're going to take a different perspective in that case. And are you looking to team? Are you maybe sending it to other small businesses to increase your capability? Then you're going to be looking at it in the lens of sending it to other vendors versus sending it to the primes or the agency. Okay, so how do we use a capability statement? Consider it concisely as a door opener, and you're going to provide it to build relationships, to start that process, to basically introduce your business, your organization. You go to an industry day. We have a large matchmaking event and an industry day with educational opportunities in March with the Illinois Apex Accelerators. Those type of networking events are very key in building relationships, and you have to have a capability statement to as a takeaway to introduce the organization. Meeting with points of contact, finding someone that you can connect with, asking for a meeting, the first thing they're going to want to see is your capability statement, whether that's a contracting officer. You see those abbreviations there, CO and KO, those acronyms, CO, contracting officers, in the case of all agencies except the Department of Defense, KO there because CO can mean commanding officer. So to avoid the confusion, they're going to be a KO in the case of the Department of Defense. PM, small business professionals, stakeholders, other decision makers, and initiating a capability briefing again and in response to solicitations. Now, I have an asterisk there because I want to make an important caveat to putting it in response of um, sources SOTs or other documents where they ask you to include other information that you would not necessarily have on your capability statement. So if you are responding, and I am a big proponent of responding to sources sought notices and requests for information, very important that you do not provide a generic capability statement. They'll ask you for one, and that's fine, but understand that is not enough. This is an opportunity for you to take that sources sought or request for information that you are responding to and tailor that capability statement to what you now know the agency in particular is looking for. So providing that statement does not necessarily follow the format that they ask you for, and that's why we caveat that it's much more than just sending that capability statement to follow the guidelines of what they're asking for. So there are layers of decision makers besides the sources SOTs and the request for information that you'll be sending the capability statement to. Understanding that if you're sending it to a small business representative, perhaps you have reached the agency's Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. You've reached the Small Business Liaison Officer at a prime contractor. It could go again to contracting and acquisition staff. Maybe you were fortunate enough to actually touch base with the commanding officer, the contracting officer. That way you would be tailoring it to the specific agency. Program and technical managers. Maybe you're going to a end user. And so you're able to then tailor to the end user, teaming partners, and keeping in mind state agencies also appreciate a capability statement. So in that case where you've got perhaps a DBE recognition, you've got a business enterprise program recognition from the state of Illinois. They use different codes, NIGP codes. So once again, another opportunity to tailor your capability statement to your audience. So there are going to be 6 key elements of a capability statement. So right off the bat, it's going to be called a capability statement. Please make it clear, middle of the page, bold type, that you are giving them a capability statement to review. You're going to have contact information. And the fun part of this is at the end, we're going to look at some sample capability statements, and we're going to judge those and look at some concerns, some issues that we'll have that we, the audience here today, will obviously not have those missteps in your capability statements. Company data. You're going to tell what your core competencies are, your differentiators, and again, your past performance. Those are going to be the key elements. We're going to find that formatting is not nearly as important, but it's just the facts. And putting this information in will be the most important factor you're going to have in your capability statement. Formatting is going to be flexible. Okay, so here's just breaking it down into sections. Core competencies. Okay, again, what do you want to do? And specifically, what do you want to do for the government? You may have things you're doing commercially. things you're doing on a business to business perspective. This is all about what are you doing business to government. Okay. And then you look at past performance, and we're going to break that down. How do we include examples under past performance? Differentiators, again, another key way to sell your organization. We look at section number 4, corporate data. We're going to talk about that's your page code in the case of the federal government. It's your unique entity ID, which you got to do your SAM registration. It's your NACE codes, or again, in the case if you're sending it to the state, it's your NIGP codes. But it's information that the organizations need to know about what your capabilities are. And then contact information, again, mission critical that they know how to get a hold of you. Who are they going to get on the phone when they call? Give them a name, give them a person to acknowledge when you pick up the phone. Okay, statement length. Now, you'll hear some different schools of thought on the statement length. Original school of thought that I adhere to yet today is it's 1 page. Talking with contracting officers, they want us to give 6 or 7 seconds to this capability statement and have a full snapshot of your business. Okay, so it's very important to have 1 page. There are a few exceptions where a second page may be appropriate. That'd be on a case by case basis. But in general, it forces you to be concise and to the point, and in fact, use bullet points in many cases to make it a quick read. We're not looking for clip art. We're looking for a nice, crisp logo, contact information, and content. Okay, and so an effective marketing one-pager will quickly orient that reader to the value of your business. And it may be a generic statement because you may not know that your reader is going to be a customer, an investor, a potential partner. But the benefit is that it's clear and concise. And we'll talk about how to do that. It is benefit-driven communication. Again, you are telling your reader the value add to doing business with your organization. Okay, so company data. What does that mean? All right, so you've put capability statement or the initial words on your CAPE statement, your logo, name, email, phone, whether that's phone, office, direct to you. Just make that clear. Print it on your capability statement. It's not a business card. You don't have a business card attached to it. You have the content from a business card is on your capability statement. And of course, if you have a website, put the URL to your website. I'm a big proponent of having a government page on your website. Certainly from a marketing perspective, that would be key to direct the person who got your capability statement directly to information that they want to know if they are a government agency. Okay. Company data also is your UEI, your cage code, NACE codes again. If you are working with the Department of Defense, maybe you have product service codes and federal supply codes. Your GSA schedule, if you have one, or other blanket purchase agreements that you have in place that someone that looks at your statement might be able to buy off of. Also, if you have social economic certifications, the Woman Owned Small Business, Service Disabled Veterans, that's where you would indicate that information as well. And then a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the value you provide. Okay, so contact information, that's clear. Now we're going to talk about core competencies. Okay, again, we're trying to laser focus on the target agency. So where we will have a generic version, we're going to tailor to where we're going to send this, indicating what you perform really well. So core products and services, again, not necessarily everything that you do outside of the scope of what are you best positioned to do for the government. So the short introductory statement, like you see here, could be as simple as my company provides the services that an agency, so let's say the Department of Defense, requires to meet its mission. Okay, so we've been on their website. We understand what's important to them, what their mission is. So in this case, it's protecting the warfighter. So services that the DoD requires to meet its mission of protecting the warfighter by providing armory or something to that effect. You would then show the agency that you've done your homework, that you understand what their mission is, and what you provide can provide value to them because you know what it is that is important, what their mission is. So relate your core competencies to their specific needs. Again, going back to something like responding to a solicitation as an example where you are very specific in saying how you can meet that requirement. And keywords, heavy bullet points are really um, very important when you start talking about how you make this concise and readable. And we also understand currently, as of today, with AI being used to scrape data from capability statements, that really using keywords is probably as important as anything else that we could do because it's going to pick up on those keywords. Okay, so past performance. We're going to move on to this section because this is really important. You are in past performance providing the reader with an understanding that you have maturity and capability and the ability to provide a quality product or service to them if they engage with you. So kind of think of it like a reference, and they're going to check. There's a system after you've been in government contracting for some period of time. There is a system where the agencies can give written references, electronic references on projects that you've performed. So there will be a time after a while where the agency that wants to use you next can go into that database and find past performance referrals for you. However, when you're new and those have not been entered into the system, then what you put on your capability statement allows them, the agencies that are very risk averse, to get some feel for how you're going to perform similar work for them. So it's just 2 or 3 past customers, but it's good examples that really are either internal to the agency at all possible. So you're looking to work another project with that same agency. Of course, one of your 2 or 3 examples is going to be the work that you previously did for that agency. Haven't worked for the agency yet, then maybe a related similar agency. You did work for the Air National Guard and you're looking to perform something for an Air Force potential solicitation. So you're looking at similar agencies. Other government entities, staying within the government, federal, state, and local, if you've done that, working down, so these are in a priority, then what you've done for the private sector and maybe some commercial contracts that are as relatable as possible to what work you want to do for the government. So describe the job, just a brief summary using industry searchable keywords, again, looking at AI, evaluating those capability statements. Show the benefit to the customer. So you were deployed to do this project. It saved the customer 10%, saved them, $100,000 by using your service. The complexity of the performance. If this were, a more involved, you brought in additional resources, you had subject matter experts on the program. Just talk about what you had to do to accomplish the task. Again, they're reading this as a way to determine if your customers are satisfied and that they too will be satisfied with your performance. Okay, so always do the most relative past performance first. Omit anything that doesn't truly relate. So if you can't associate that with the agency or the project in some way, let's find something else to include. Provide a customer point of contact for each project listed a telephone number and an email address. Again, they will contact them to get additional information on the project. Subcontractor, list your prime. Take credit for the part you performed in that contract. So be specific. fine to use your subcontracting experience. Just let the agency know that's how the work was performed. You can use commercial contracts for past performance. There's actually a part of the federal acquisition regulation that tells those contracting officers that are evaluating to consider commercial contracts. So if we can't get there with government, don't be bashful in using commercial contracts if we need to do that. You're a new company, you don't have any past performance, we can craft that as well. Just did that very recently. With someone that had a vast amount of knowledge that they brought with them to the company they started. So we built on their individual experience and we phrased that our executive team, our founder versus our company. So that is just as important. That is expertise and knowledge that is going to lead to the success of that company and the success of that project. So we can certainly build on that as well if we need to. Okay, so just a couple of quick examples of what you might say in the capability statement under past performance. If you were directly the prime, okay, provided XYZ services to enable the effective use of ABC, thereby reducing costs by, again, an example, $100,000 over 3 years. Put in the year of performance, the agency you did that for, the name of the contract vehicle, if there were one. Did you get it off of a release, a task order, other type of mass award schedule? Put that in there and the dollar amount of the performance. Give the contact reference, name, title, phone, and email. So again, if they don't relate to the targeted agency, don't list it. Now you're a subcontractor, okay? So you worked for the prime, who worked for the government. As a subcontractor to naming the prime, I provided those XYZ services, that was my work performed, to enable the effective use of ABC, thereby reducing the cost over 3 years. So I contributed to that $100,000 reduction this much. And the year of performance, give contact reference, name, title, phone, and email. Okay. I was an employee of a company that did work that eventually went to the government. As an employee, I provided those services, enabled the effective use, thereby reducing the cost over 3 years. So again, what was my part as an employee of an agency that did work for the government or of a prime that worked for the government? Okay, now let's talk about differentiators. Differentiators, hugely important because it's going to talk about what makes you unique, your unique features or benefits of your product, aspects of your brand that set you apart from competing products or brands. Okay, so in identifying what makes you different from your competitors, maybe it's your business location. Maybe you're strategically located. Maybe you are maybe you are located close by to an agency, which makes it convenient for them. Again, maybe it's a base and they like the idea that you can respond quickly. Maybe they're looking for a 24-hour turnaround on a maintenance contract. You're located strategically so that you could provide that. So business location can be a differentiator. Specialization. Do you have a perceived or an actual niche in the market? Do you do something that is totally unique that they would take advantage of, that adds value to what you offer? Do you have anything that's exclusive? You are the only retailer of something. Relationships. Are you an IBM designated distributor? Do you have special, because of certifications that you have with an agency, because you have taken advanced courses, because you have gone through their training program? How does that set you apart from their other distributors or their other service providers? And your experience. Experience can be, combined. It can be very important. Our owners have 150 years of experience in this industry. Those kind of things we can build on as differentiators. And at the end of the day, how do those differentiators actually benefit who I want to read this capability statement? Again, the agency, the prime, or a teaming partner. How do these things play into their mission and what they want to accomplish and pain points they want to solve? Okay, so they really demonstrate at the end of the day your business competency. Okay, what is a differentiator? It's a straightforward, concise statement focused on customer needs, specific decision makers, and upcoming contracts. From the other sessions, you learned that upcoming contracts, meaning we've been out building a relationship, we have potentially met with this agency that's going to have a contract coming, so we know it's coming. We talk to them, we understand where their pain points are, what they want to accomplish, and so we're steering everything in that direction. So when they see our capability statement, they're going to understand that we know how we can best fit into their program and their needs. You incorporate your logos, okay? Awards, recognitions, certifications. Again, those are differentiators, okay? We'll look at a couple of examples of what those could be. They are always, always, always qualitative and quantitative numbers, percentages, metrics, something that supports your statement. Okay. Again, at the end of the day, why is your biggest customer choosing you? What do they say about you? Why do they think that you're different and you are worthy of their business? What makes you and your products and services stand out? How and why your company is the best value and the lowest risk. Again, those agencies are very risk averse. So they're going to look at everything possible to understand that you are the lowest risk for their needs, for that opportunity, or for the agency in general. Teaming partners, staffing management approach. Your teaming partners increase your capacity. Very important that you might want to let the agencies know, hey, this is me, but when I bring on another small business, my partner ABC, now I can do so much more. We can do so much more together than we could do as one. So your teaming partners can be a differentiator for you. And your staffing and management support, again, particularly when we're talking about not much past performance, we can build on the staffing and the management and the approach that they have in running the business to be a differentiator as well. Okay, a unique experience and qualifications of your key personnel, why your products provide a better problem solution, production control procedures. Do you have, again, we're looking at differentiators, so we're looking at things in your industry that are not commonly deployed among your competitors. Do you have some data security control procedures? And there will be a time when this cybersecurity maturity management model certification, the CMMC, will be a requirement. Right now, it would be a differentiator. If you were to have, now level 1 is a self-certification. If you were to be ahead of the game and be working on a level 2 certification, that makes you a differentiator. That is something that is coming fast, but right now, there are very few in the market that would have a level 2 certification. Very few. So as we work on that, being ahead of the game makes that unique for you in the marketplace potentially. Do you have ISO certification? Definitely a differentiator. Talking about your quality standards, safety programs you have in place, potentially a safety record. Okay, that again, these are things that we're looking for to be quantifiable, qualifiable. So you've got something behind it, something to substantiate it. Okay, and if you have a facility clearance, obviously, that would be a differentiator. Okay, what they are not. Please, please, please keep in mind that generic statements are not differentiators. Okay, it's not a one size fits all. You cannot say appropriately, we have the best quality, best pricing, best delivery. Anyone can say that, but again, we're looking for quantifiable statistics, recognitions, something that you can put behind that. Best in class, world class, best of breed, those are not differentiators. Heads will explode if we see those. Okay, so some additional actions. So you've crafted an exceptional capability statement. One of the things that we look at is consistency, maintaining that consistency in branding. The logos look the same whether they see your business card, your capability statement, your web page. Everything has that public view has branding that is consistent. So again, a plug for having a government page on your website, if that works in your current website, just having that tab that directs your reader that is for the government to search for that additional information. The dynamic small business search, we'll look at that in just a minute, really is a reflection of your capability statement. This, again, as we talked about previously, this is a database for market research by the agencies to find you if you are a small business. Only small businesses are included in this database, but it's pretty much a cut and paste of what's on your capability statement. So another thing, you have a space in this dynamic small business search for special equipment, special materials you have. Those again are differentiators. Using keywords so anything that's scraping for data can find that in your capability statement and your performance history, company training requirements, business cards, your email, your blog, your LinkedIn. Just spend a little time analyzing how your service benefits your customers, and you're going to have the right message then when it counts. So we're going to look at here that dynamic small business search. So if you're not familiar with this, work with your Apex Accelerator, and we're going to get you there because it is a very important database. You see up here, dynamic small business search is what it is called. This is just a very small screen capture of what it looks like when you go into it. The SBA provides this system for us if you're not familiar with it. A SAM registration creates your profile in the DSBS. We work together to build that profile. Again, trying to get the agency, drawn in to what it is you do and why they want to use you. So we fill out a very basic profile and enhance that from a marketing standpoint, free marketing for your business. And then what you see over here on the far right, if you see my cursor, there is now a link in this. So this is a progression of, this is the dynamic small business search. The middle here is how we get there to modify your profile through the SBA Connect site. At the end of the day, in the dynamic small business search, we can now connect your capability statement through a link. So this is a screenshot of your profile as an example in the dynamic small business search. Here, this is blank, but you would have a URL in there where you would have your capability statement hosted, maybe on your website, maybe in Dropbox, somewhere where that could be reached through a URL. And then they're going to see everything they need to see in many different places. And that's really key. Okay, so just a little way to get creative, adding a QR code. Okay, we know that we may get to see them. We may get to have them take your capability statement with them. Maybe they want to use a QR code so they can get it when they get back home if you've met them at a networking event. But adding a QR code does make it easier, especially if they don't want to have paper. Hyperlink back to your website for your capability statement. We just talked about that. A self-hosted location for that. LinkedIn icon, hyperlink your business page. That's one thing we didn't mention, but putting your LinkedIn on your capability statement. And if you have a company LinkedIn, can get them to that as well to follow you. Okay, updates to consider. If you have a capability statement, make sure it is because it is a living document. I'm sure that this has already been taken care of, but that your DUNS number has been replaced with the unique entity ID. Are your contacts current and easy to find? Very important. Are your NACE codes current? They did change in 2022, but if you haven't updated your capability statement, so your NACE codes may change. So you want to take a look at those. Updated past performance. Again, as a living document, we should have most current contracts, most current opportunities that we've completed. And especially if we can take, if we have multiple opportunities to take those and make them as relevant as possible to the agency. Do you have a description on your past performance examples? Make sure that it's not just a note that you did a contract, but who did you do it for? What did you do? And talk about some of the complexities of the performance. And 5 to 6 seconds to read your capability statement and gather that information that is mission critical to do business with you. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up this part, to talk about some tips for success. Again, can't say enough how important it is to customize your capability statement to the target. You're going to be dealing with different agencies, different commercial industries, if you're looking at primes, different projects. So be prepared from that baseline capability statement that you have the ability to make a version for this agency, make a version for this prime, and keep track of those and continuously monitor your chance to update and target. No more than one page. Yeah, I'm of that school where we do everything possible to have one page. Certainly could talk about the need to do something more than that, case by case. Avoid using unrelated capabilities on one statement. So if you have a broad base of products and services that you would be providing to the industry, let's try to focus in on what is related to what you're selling to that industry versus what you're selling to a different agency, and putting many things on one when you know that that audience is just really interested in a portion of that or a platform of one particular aspect of your business. Let's make sure that we try to focus in on what that agency wants to look at. Use their terminology if at all possible. Again, to having done your market research, done your homework, you looked at their website, and you know what they want and how they phrase what they do. Use that same terminology. Again, it's very important for them to understand that you have taken the time to do that. Have multiple versions, can't say that enough, descriptions of your past performance, and follow the same format for capability briefings. Again, that's an introduction that you may be fortunate to have with an agency or a prime contractor. And so, if I could sum this up, you may have one chance. And so that one chance is mission critical to put your best foot forward. Okay, now I'm going to go through some examples, but I thought I would stop here quickly and see if we've got any questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Right now, we don't have any questions submitted. So just as a reminder, we had quite a few people jump on after I already given my spiel, but you can drop those in the chat box. You can find that by hovering over the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom. So if you have any, just feel free to submit those there.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Okay, so we're going to go to some examples. All right, so because it's hard to be interactive on a webinar, I've highlighted an issue or two that I see on these capability statements, things that I would prefer that you avoid if I have a chance to work with you, or any of my colleagues would have a chance to work with you on developing an extraordinary capability statement for you. So here's Flash Domain LLC. Now, a couple of things, everyone has the way that they want to format. Maybe they're more comfortable with some over another. I'm going to look at content and make sure that it is visually appealing to the reader, but in this case I think this one is cluttered. I don't think that you can get concise 5 to 6 second read out of this capability statement. And my biggest concern here is core competencies. To have this, and again, these are bullet points. So I'm rethinking this critique a little bit in that bullet points are good. Core competencies generally is a bit of a narrative, 2, 3, 4 sentences at the most that really describe what it is you're focusing in on the government for. However, I don't know out of these core competencies and with the little icons next to them that you're getting the full picture. Big data may or may not be something that you would find in a solicitation, in a requirement. Potentially it is. But that my critique on this, other than you don't need a SAM logo, if you see this SAM logo that's taken off of the screen is unnecessary. And plus, you have to be careful using logos. Now, they are visually appealing and they do give a quick read to the agencies that you've worked with. However, many agencies have restrictions on the use of their logos. So if you wanted to use logos, now I've never known anybody to get hand slapped for using them, but you are told that you need permission to use them. But the SAM logo in particular, if you have your gauge code and your UEI listed, now this statement has not been updated because it still carries the DUNS number. But you do not need a SAM logo if you have a cage code that they know you're registered in SAM. Okay, and tailoring the statement. Now, potentially this was going to a state agency in North Carolina, but if it were going to a federal agency, the North Carolina hub certification would not be would not have an effect in federal government contracting. However, a hub zone certification most certainly would from the SBA. Okay, so moving on, we're going to look at GPI here. Now, take a look at that here again. So, a business that has used the agency logos. Don't necessarily know they have permission to use all those logos, but again, that's a pretty quick read to see that they've worked with the Army, with NASA, with Boeing, etc. My big concern, and I'll give you just a minute to look this over, that there is something missing. Okay. It's contact information. There's no way, I don't know from looking at this how to get a hold of GPI. There's no phone number. There's no person on here. It looks great. It's impressive that they've done business with all of these organizations, but I'd have to do some digging to look for them. And I don't want you to make anyone have to look that hard to get a hold of you if they're interested in doing business with you. Okay? Now, let's look at X Corp. X Corp, look at their differentiators. They're ready, they're responsive, and they're reliable. Okay? If you see in the left-hand corner, that's my head exploding. That is not, as you all know now, those are not differentiators. Okay? So we would work very hard with X Corp to come up with things that do set them apart, that they can quantify or qualify. Okay, the other thing we don't have here is past performance. So if you look at this, you see they were diligent, but that they have facility level clearance, which is a differentiator. So they have differentiators on there. That should be front and center in here, where they're reliable, responsive, and ready. Okay, so we would pull that out. So many times we find in a capability statement, differentiators are there. We just need to pull them out of a narrative or somewhere else and put them in the right location. Okay, so they've got that there. Those are really in a lot of NACE codes. Certifications, several certifications, but again, no past performance. Okay. All right, now let's look at T&H services. you take a look at that, you see they have their goals on there. They have what they do. They don't have any differentiators. But again, they're promoting clean. Clean is in their name, green, clean. So there's probably differentiators in there about being, friendly to the environment, using green products. Things like that are going to be differentiators potentially in their industry. So we need to pull that out and create some differentiators. They're LEED certified. Okay. So again, that is a differentiator. We just need to pull those out and put them in there. And again, poor TNH, you got a great picture there. Now, this is an example where we don't need clip art, don't need a picture of somebody mopping a floor. Okay, we get that. There should be more to their story versus just having a photo there. If the photo isn't relevant to the audience that you're sending this to, we don't encourage using clip art. Don't encourage using photos. Now, if you were applying to construct a building, if you were sending this to where you wanted to demonstrate, wanted to visually show a building that you had constructed, okay, that's something that is relevant versus just having clip art of a standard image. There's no need to do that. Okay, now we're going to look at our friends Govology. If you have worked with an Apex Accelerator, you probably know Govology is one of our training partners, most excellent. So I would expect that they would have a most excellent capability statement. So you see, here's one where they did their narrative, they did their core competencies, they've got some past performance listed, their industry codes, etc. Again, they are in the training space, and we do use their training from time to time for clients. And then here is another one, a carrier also following the guidelines with their capabilities, core competencies, great past performance listed. They've got the date, they've got what they did. Now they don't have a contact person, so I would encourage them to include that, obviously. But they've got industry codes, it's visual, and it's a quick read. And that's really where we want to go with the capability statement. Okay, so there were some examples of some that we could improve on because of, that tactics that we learned today and the guidelines that we've gone over. So with that, hopefully that helps to see some examples and see some things some do's and don'ts. So I'm going to check and see if we have if that generated any additional questions.
And thank you, Kelly. There are no questions in the chat, but I will say I know that's a lot of information. So if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one meeting with Kelly or register as an Apex client, I will share all of that information in the follow-up email as well. So you can speak one-on-one with Kelly about this. As a reminder, if you haven't worked with an Apex Accelerator before, our services are offered at no cost and they're totally confidential. So you can work with Kelly or an Apex Accelerator that's closer to you if you're not in the Champaign County area.
Definitely. And these are very, very important in building relationships, in introducing your company in a networking event, etc. So we do encourage you to spend some time on your capability statements and let us coach you through that process because it is important. We like to spend some time on those and help you put your best foot forward. So give us an opportunity. We'd love to work with you on this and any other aspect, of course, of government contracting as well.
Well, we can go ahead and close out today's session. As a reminder, you will receive that follow-up email and that will go out before the end of the day today. So be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great weekend and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.